72 hours. 3 days. That's how long it took for David Morrison's entire world to collapse. On Friday morning, he was worth $40 million. He had a penthouse overlooking the city, a Tesla in the garage, a wife he loved, 2 kids in private school. He was living the American dream. By Monday night, he was sitting on a stained mattress in a $29 motel room with a bottle of pills in one hand and a note to his family in the other. How does someone fall that far that fast? And more importantly, when you've lost everything, when you're completely broken, when you're convinced there's no way forward, can God still find you? Tonight, I want to tell you about the fastest fall from grace I've ever heard, and about the moment when a man who'd built an empire on his own strength finally realized he couldn't save himself. This is David's story, and it might just be yours too. David Morrison grew up poor, not struggling middle-class poor, real poor. The kind where your mom works 3 jobs and you still go to bed hungry sometimes. His dad left when David was 6, just walked out one day and never came back. His mom, Patricia, did everything she could, but it was never enough. David wore hand-me-down clothes to school. He got free lunch. He knew what it felt like to be looked down on. But David had something, a fire inside him, a determination that whispered every single day, "This won't be your life forever. You're going to make it. You're going to be somebody." By the time David was 25, he'd worked his way through community college, then state university, business degree. He started at the bottom of a tech startup in Silicon Valley. 80-hour weeks. Sleeping in his car some nights because he couldn't afford rent. But he was brilliant. He understood markets. He understood people. He understood what made businesses succeed or fail. At 32, David launched his own investment firm, Morrison Capital Group. He started with 3 clients and a borrowed office. Within 2 years, he was managing $10 million. Within 5 years, $50 million. David had the golden touch. Everything he invested in seemed to multiply. Tech companies, real estate, cryptocurrency before it was mainstream. His annual returns were legendary, sometimes 30–40% a year. By the time David was 43, he was personally worth over $40 million. $40 million. From a kid who grew up on food stamps. He bought a penthouse in downtown Seattle. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. 7,000 square feet of marble and modern luxury. He married Rebecca, a brilliant architect he'd met at a charity gala. They had 2 kids, Sophia, 12, and Nathan, 9. David drove a Tesla Model S. He wore custom suits. He had a Rolex Submariner that cost more than his mother had made in 10 years of work. But here's the thing about David. He wasn't a bad person. He gave to charity. He funded scholarships for kids from low-income backgrounds, kids like he'd been. He treated his employees well. He loved his family. But David had one fatal flaw: pride. David believed he was self-made, that everything he had, he'd earned through his own brilliance, his own hard work, his own talent. Rebecca would sometimes suggest they go to church. Her parents were Christians. She'd grown up in the faith. But David would laugh it off. Babe, I respect your beliefs, but I don't need God. Look at what I've built. I did this. Not some invisible sky deity. Me. Rebecca would get quiet when he said things like that, but she didn't push. She just prayed. Every night, she prayed for her husband. David's success made him confident, then overconfident, then reckless. In 2023, he made a series of massive investments, high-risk, high-reward plays. He leveraged everything, borrowed millions against his assets to invest even more. His advisors warned him, "David, this is too aggressive. You're overextended. If the market turns." "The market won't turn," David said with absolute certainty. "I know what I'm doing. I always know what I'm doing." Pride comes before the fall. Everything started unraveling on a Friday morning in October. David was in his office, reviewing quarterly reports, when his phone rang. It was Marcus, his chief financial officer. "David, we have a problem. The Singapore deal just collapsed. The company filed for bankruptcy. Our $15 million is gone." David felt his stomach drop. $15 million. That was huge. But it wasn't fatal. He had other investments. "Okay," David said, trying to stay calm. "Okay. We'll absorb it. Move some things around. We're fine." But they weren't fine. 2 hours later, another call. The real estate development in Austin? The one David had invested $12 million in? The permits had been denied. Environmental issues. The project was dead. The money was gone. $27 million. Vanished. In one morning. David was starting to panic now. But the worst was yet to come. That afternoon, the SEC called. One of David's partners, a man he'd trusted, a man who managed a huge portion of the firm's investments, had been running a fraud scheme, embezzling client money, making up returns, creating fake documents, and David, as the CEO, was legally liable. The SEC was freezing all of Morrison Capital Group's assets. Immediately, pending investigation, David sat at his desk, staring at his computer screen as the numbers flashed red. Account frozen. Account frozen. Account frozen. Everything. His business accounts. His personal accounts. His retirement. Everything. "This can't be happening," David whispered. "This can't be happening." But it was. By Friday evening, David's phone was exploding. Clients were calling, panicking, demanding answers. News of the SEC investigation had leaked. People were threatening lawsuits. David tried to explain that he hadn't known about the fraud, that he was a victim too. But nobody cared. They just wanted their money back. Money that was gone. Rebecca found David sitting in his home office at midnight, staring blankly at his computer. "David, honey, what's wrong? You've been in here for hours." David couldn't even look at her. "We're ruined, Beck. The business is gone. The money is gone. Everything." "What do you mean, everything?" "I mean everything. The SEC froze our accounts. All of them. We have nothing." Rebecca sank into the chair across from him. "How is that possible? We have $40 million. Had, David said bitterly. We had 40 million. It's gone. And we owe. God, we owe so much. I leveraged everything. The house. The cars. I thought I was being smart. I thought. He couldn't finish. He just put his head in his hands. Saturday morning, the lawyers came. Grim-faced men in suits who explained the situation in cold legal terms. David was being named in multiple lawsuits. Client losses totaled over $100 million. Even if he wasn't criminally liable, he would face civil judgments. What does that mean? Rebecca asked. The lawyer looked at her with sympathy. It means they'll take everything. The house, the cars, any assets they can find. You'll be forced into bankruptcy. You need to prepare for that. That afternoon, a repo man came for the Tesla. David stood in his driveway and watched them load his car onto a tow truck. His neighbor, Kevin, was outside washing his car. Kevin waved awkwardly. David didn't wave back. He couldn't. The shame was crushing. Sunday morning, Rebecca tried to get David to come to church with her. David, please. We need help. We need. I don't need church. David exploded. What's God going to do, Rebecca? Write me a check. This is reality. This is the real world. And in the real world, I'm finished. Rebecca started crying. You don't have to face this alone. Yes, I do. Because there's no one who can fix this. Not you. Not God. No one. Rebecca took the kids to church without him. David sat alone in the penthouse. The penthouse he'd lose in a matter of weeks, and felt the walls closing in. Everything he'd built. Everything he'd worked for. 20 years of grinding, sacrificing, building. Gone in 72 hours. By Sunday night, David was in a dark place. Not just financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. He started thinking about things he'd never thought about before. Dark things. What's the point of going on? Everyone will know. Everyone will see me as a failure. I'll be a cautionary tale. The guy who had it all and lost it. My kids will be embarrassed. Rebecca will leave me. She should leave me. I've destroyed her life too. Maybe they'd be better off without me. There's life insurance. At least that's something I can leave them. Monday morning, David told Rebecca he needed some time alone. To think, to figure things out. Rebecca looked at him with worry in her eyes. David, promise me you're not going to do anything. I'm fine, he lied. I just need space. He wasn't fine. David withdrew what little cash he could access. $300 from an old checking account the SEC hadn't found yet. He got in his wife's Honda. They couldn't take it yet because it was in her name, and he drove. He didn't know where he was going. He just drove. Out of the city. Away from the penthouse. Away from the life he'd lost. 2 hours later, he found himself in a small town he'd never been to before. Strip malls, fast food joints, and a rundown motel with a flickering neon sign. Vacancy, $29 per night. David paid cash for a room. Room 147. The clerk barely looked at him. The room was exactly what you'd expect for $29. Stained carpet. A bed with questionable sheets. A TV from the 90s. the smell of old cigarettes and bleach. 3 days ago, David had been in a penthouse worth $7 million. Now he was here. David sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. The full weight of his situation crashed down on him like an avalanche. He'd lost everything. His business, his reputation, his money, his identity. Everything that made him David Morrison was gone. Who was he without it? Without the money? Without the success? Without the empire? He was nothing. Just a scared kid from a broken home who'd gotten lucky for a while. David pulled out his phone, looked at a photo of his family. Rebecca, Sophia, Nathan, smiling, happy, from a vacation last summer when everything was perfect. They deserved better than him. They deserved a husband and father who could provide, who could protect them, who wasn't a complete failure. David opened his laptop, started typing a note. A goodbye. Dear Rebecca, Sophia, and Nathan, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry I failed you. I'm sorry I destroyed our life. You deserved so much better than me. I thought I could build something permanent, something secure. But I was wrong. And now there's nothing left to give you except debt and shame. The life insurance will take care of you. At least I can do that much. At least you'll have something. Please don't remember me as a failure. Remember the good times. Remember when things were good. I love you. I'm so sorry. David. David read the note 3 times. Then he closed the laptop. He went to the bathroom, opened the medicine cabinet. He'd stopped at a pharmacy on the way, bought a bottle of sleeping pills. The kind of thing that seemed harmless but could be deadly in the right dose. David poured the pills into his hand, counted them. 60 pills. More than enough. $29 motel room. David raised the pills to his mouth, and then he heard something. A voice. Not audible, not out loud, but clear, unmistakable, like someone speaking directly into his soul. David, put them down. David froze. The pills were an inch from his lips. His hand was shaking. Put them down. This isn't the end. This is the beginning. David's hand fell. The pills scattered across the bathroom floor. He started crying. Deep, gasping sobs. Who's there? He whispered. Who are you? You know who I am. And David did. Somehow he did. God, David said through tears. Is that, are you? He felt ridiculous. He didn't believe in God. He'd said it 1,000 times. God was a crutch for weak people. God was something people invented to make themselves feel better. But in that moment, alone on a bathroom floor with pills scattered around him, David felt something he'd never felt before. A presence. Not scary. Not judgmental. Just there. With him. I've lost everything, David said aloud, talking to a God he wasn't sure existed but desperately needed to be real. Everything I built. Everything I am. It's all gone. I'm nothing. You were never nothing. You were just looking in the wrong place. I don't understand. You built an empire, but you built it on sand, on pride, on the belief that you didn't need anyone or anything except yourself. And when the storm came, it all washed away. Because that's what happens when we build without me. David felt anger flash through him. I worked for everything I had. I came from nothing. I built that company with my own hands. Did you? Who gave you the intelligence, the opportunities, the health, the connections? Who gave you breath in your lungs and a mind that could think? Did you create those things? David sat in silence. He'd never thought about it that way. Everything he'd accomplished, he'd attributed to himself. His brilliance, his work ethic, his determination. But what if that wasn't the whole story? What if God had been there all along, giving him the very tools he'd use to build his empire? And David had never once said thank you, never once acknowledged it. "I'm sorry," David whispered. "I'm sorry. I thought I didn't need you. I thought I was enough on my own. But I'm not. I'm not enough. No one is. That's why you need me. But I've made such a mess of everything. I've hurt people. I've destroyed my family's life. I've lost everything. How can you forgive that? David, do you think this is about what you've accomplished? Do you think I love you because you were successful? I loved you when you were a scared 6-year-old boy whose father left. I loved you when you were sleeping in your car. I loved you when you were building your empire. And I love you now, sitting on this bathroom floor. My love doesn't change based on your bank account." David wept. He wept like he'd never wept in his entire life. All the pride, all the pretense, all the walls he'd built around himself, they all came crashing down. "I need you," David said. "I don't know how this works. I don't know what I'm supposed to say or do, but I need you. I can't do this alone. I tried so hard, and I failed." "You didn't fail, David. You fell. There's a difference. Failure is final. Falling just means you need someone to help you back up. Will you help me? Will you save me? I already did. 2,000 years ago on a cross. You just needed to be ready to accept it." David didn't see a vision. He didn't hear angels singing. There was no miraculous light from heaven. But something changed in that moment. Something fundamental. Something eternal. The crushing weight of shame and failure that had been suffocating him lifted. Not completely. Not instantly. But enough that he could breathe. Enough that he could see a path forward, even if he couldn't see where it led. David spent the rest of that night on his knees in that motel room, praying, really praying. Not the kind of empty prayers he'd heard at weddings or funerals, but real conversation. Raw, honest, broken. "God, I don't know what happens next. I'm still going to lose everything. I'm still going to face lawsuits. I'm still going to declare bankruptcy. My life is still destroyed. But if you're real, and I think you are, I think you're here with me right now, then I'm asking you to walk through this with me. I can't do it alone. I need you." And in the silence of that motel room, David felt something he hadn't felt in days. Peace. Not happiness. Not the absence of problems. But peace. A deep, unexplainable peace that said, You're not alone. You're not abandoned. I'm with you. And we'll get through this together. David picked up the pills from the floor, flushed them down the toilet, deleted the suicide note from his laptop. He called Rebecca. She answered on the first ring. "David, where are you? I've been so worried." "I'm okay," David said. And for the first time in days, it was true. "I'm okay. I'm in some motel. I don't even know where. But I'm okay. And I'm coming home." "David, what happened? You sound different." "I met God tonight, Beck. I know that sounds crazy. I know I've said 1,000 times that I don't believe. But I was in a really dark place. And He found me. He found me and He saved me." Rebecca started crying. "Oh, David. Oh, thank God. Thank God. I'm so sorry, Rebecca. For everything. For my pride. For not listening to you. For building our life on sand instead of on God. I'm so sorry." "It's okay," Rebecca said. "It's okay. Just come home. We'll figure the rest out together." David's life didn't magically get better overnight. Let me be clear about that. This isn't a story where he prayed and suddenly God gave him all his money back. The lawsuits came. David declared bankruptcy. They lost the penthouse. They moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment. Rebecca went back to work. The kids transferred to public school. It was hard, really hard. But David was different, fundamentally different. He started going to church with Rebecca every Sunday. He joined a men's Bible study. He read scripture every morning before the sun came up. And slowly, day by day, God began rebuilding David. Not his bank account. David, his character, his priorities, his understanding of what actually matters. David got a job as a financial advisor at a small firm. Modest salary. Nothing like what he'd made before. But it was honest work. He started volunteering at a homeless shelter on weekends, serving meals, talking with people who'd lost everything, just like he had. One Saturday, he met a man named Tom, 50s, living on the streets, former engineer who'd lost everything to addiction. "How do you keep going?" David asked him. "When you've lost everything, how do you find the strength to get up every day?" Tom smiled, missing teeth, but genuine warmth in his eyes. "Same way you do, brother. One day at a time. With God's help." David realized something in that moment. He'd spent 20 years chasing success, building wealth, trying to prove he was somebody. And he'd lost it all in 72 hours. But here, serving soup to homeless people, he felt more purpose than he'd ever felt in a boardroom. Because success isn't about what you have. It's about who you are. And more importantly, whose you are. 3 years have passed since that night in the motel room. David is 46 now. He and Rebecca live in a modest house in the suburbs. Nothing fancy. But it's theirs. Paid for. No debt. Sophia is 15. Nathan is 12. They're good kids. They don't have everything they used to have. But they have something better. They have a father who's present. Who's there? Who puts them first. David runs a small financial literacy nonprofit now, teaching low-income families how to manage money, how to save, how to build stability. Not wealth, just stability. He makes a fraction of what he used to make, but he's never been happier. Every morning before he gets out of bed, David prays the same prayer. God, thank you for saving me. Not just my life that night in the motel, but saving me from myself, from my pride, from the emptiness of chasing things that don't matter. Help me live today for you, not for money, not for success, but for you. Sometimes people recognize him. Aren't you David Morrison, the guy who lost all that money? And David smiles. Yeah, that's me. Best thing that ever happened to me. They look confused. How is losing $40 million the best thing that ever happened? Because, David says, I had to lose everything to find what actually matters. I had to hit rock bottom to look up. And when I looked up, God was there, waiting for me, and he's been with me every day since. David still thinks about that night sometimes. That motel room, those pills on the bathroom floor, how close he came to ending everything. And he thinks about the voice, the presence, the moment when God found him in his darkest hour and said, "This isn't the end. This is the beginning." Because that's what God does. He takes broken people and makes them whole. He takes failures and turns them into testimonies. He takes endings and transforms them into new beginnings. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to be successful. You don't have to be worthy. You just have to be willing. Willing to admit you can't do it alone. Willing to let go of your pride. Willing to fall into the arms of a God who's been waiting for you all along. Maybe you're listening to this and you see yourself in David's story. Maybe you've built your life on your own strength, your own success, your own accomplishments. And maybe it's working. Maybe it's all going great. Or maybe it's all falling apart. Maybe you're facing your own kind of loss. Maybe it's not $40 million. Maybe it's a job, a relationship, a dream, an identity. But it feels just as devastating. Maybe you're sitting in your own version of that motel room right now, thinking there's no way forward, thinking it's all over. I need you to hear this. It's not over. God is not done with you. Your failures don't disqualify you. Your losses don't define you. Your worst moment is not your last moment. God specializes in meeting people at their lowest. He finds us in motel rooms and prison cells and hospital beds and broken marriages and bankruptcy courts. He finds us when we've run out of options and strength and hope. And he says, "Let me carry this. You were never meant to do it alone." David lost $40 million in 72 hours. But he gained something far more valuable. He gained peace, purpose, presence with God, a life built on rock instead of sand. What about you? What are you building your life on? Your success, your wealth, your reputation, your own strength. And what happens when those things fail? Because eventually they will. Not to punish you, not to destroy you, but to show you that there's something better, someone better, waiting for you. You don't have to wait until you lose everything. You don't have to hit rock bottom. You can turn to God right now, today, in this moment. Just talk to Him. Tell Him you need Him. Tell Him you can't do it alone anymore. Tell Him you're ready to build your life on something that won't fail. And He'll be there. Just like He was there in that motel room with David. Just like He's here with you right now. God doesn't need you to be successful. He just needs you to be willing. Willing to let go. Willing to trust. Willing to fall. Knowing that He'll catch you. David lost $40 million. But he found something worth infinitely more. He found God. And God found him.